T-minus 10 minutes. T-minus 9 minutes. T-minus 8 minutes. minus 7 minutes. T minus 6 minutes. T minus 5 minutes. T minus for minutes. T minus 3 minutes. T-minus 2 minutes. T-minus 1 minute. Stand by.
How about that?
Heyo! Welcome, everybody, to the RP Show, Canada's favorite daytime sports talk show, and quickly becoming America's as well, as we are in 32 U.S. states, live here on the Game Plus Television Network, podcast form and streaming. I'm ready to rock and roll! And we're very pleased to welcome back to the program, where you're going to see him in seconds, Darren Moose DuPont. Yeah, I don't know what to say, Moose. Welcome back. It's been a couple of days off the program for you, not days off. We have a lot to get to today, Moose. I know that you have some thoughts on our topics. I will say this. Our guest today, coming up in hour two, is Matt Stairs. I was soundly trounced when I said, arguably Canada's best ever Major League Baseball player. I was trounced. No, it's Larry Walker. He's in the Hall of Fame. Matt Stairs, not bad. 2008 NLCS MVP, Major League Baseball record holder. He's coming up in hour two. But, Moose, if you don't mind, can we just get right down to business? Are you okay with dispensing the pleasantries?
Yeah, let's roll, man.
Okay.
Let's roll.
Okay. The big story as we set sail, it's a bit of a commentary on society, and I got to get my coffee out and warmed up, because we, way back 1,534 shows ago, Darren, we said, what are we? We're the View for sports fans. And I was soundly corrected, because I said the View for men. Then I realized there's a lot of female sports fans. We're the View for sports fans. So what I don't think you know is our most viewed clip, thousands and thousands of clips or views of me talking about Ron MacLean and Don Cherry's latest beef on the show yesterday. We talked about the All-Star game. We talked about the Edmonton Oilers coaching changes. No. Exponentially more. Thousands of views and comments as well coming up about Ron MacLean and Don Cherry and their latest beef, the stars of Hockey Night in Canada from years gone by. So that's just a commentary on society. Because the big story to me is the home run derby. But I'll throw this to you before I go to the baseball. What does that say? What does that say? I'm not sure what it says, but it says something that's what people want to view the most.
Yeah, the games and stuff will always be there. The All-Star games will come and go every year. But it's these personal connection stories. Look at Ron and Don. They're family to all of us. And we've grown up with them. And we've been with them for decades. So they feel like part of the family. So when there's drama going on in the family, we all have a take on it. We're all interested, and we all want to know what's going on. And to be honest, we hate it. We hate it, and it makes us uncomfortable, and so we want to talk about it.
Yeah, and for our U.S. viewers, what would we compare that to? Howard Cosell and Frank Gifford, if they had a fight into their elderly years that they just couldn't let go. That's what's going on in Canada right now. That's what apparently people want to talk about. And I've got NFL and football notes here, CFL Week 7, a rash of NHL notes and all the rest. But people just want to talk about Ron and Don, which we'll come back on, because that has to do with our poll question today, which is a real fun one, which I don't even think you know about. But aside from drama with TV stars, the big story is this. With his father, Todd, pitching, and his younger brother, Todd, catching, Todd Jr., Cal Raleigh of the Seattle Mariners won his first All-Star Home Run Derby Monday night by beating the Tampa Bay Rays Junior Caminero 18-15 in Monday's final round in Atlanta. The Mariners slugger advanced from the first round on a tiebreaker by less than an inch over the A's Brent Rooker, and then won his semifinal 19-13 over Pittsburgh's O'Neill Cruz. I do not want to put you on the spot as to whether you watched it or not, Darren, but I did. I watched it all. I said I was going to, and I loved it. And I laughed because I'm like, this is just a perfect made-for-TV event. Yep, wrapped up at 8:57 because I noticed these things. Oh, perfect. Started at 6, wrapped up before 9. Da-da-da. Bob's your uncle. Here comes Sports Center. It's made for TV now, and they did a great job. I loved it. What was your take on the All-Star Home Run Derby?
Yeah, it was cool. And I did watch a little bit of it. And that's what it's all about. Like, these events are for the people in the stands. They're also for TV. You have to plan it as such. And they did a really nice job. And it's evolved a little bit over the last number of years. I lived and died with the Home Run Derby and the NHL skills competition and the Pro Bowl passing, the quarterback competitions in the NFL, all those things. I loved all those things. And so, yeah, made for TV, really, really great. And fun night for sure.
Well, in this space yesterday, Mitchell Scruffy Blair co-hosted with me, and he goes, I'm not watching it. Shohei Ohtani's not in it. Aaron Judge isn't in it. I'm like, I never even stopped to think about that. Because what have I said for years? I think about what is. I celebrate what is. I don't think about what isn't. And I'm sitting there on the couch last night enjoying looking up O'Neill Cruz. And I'm like, oh, yeah, he's the guy that was in the horrific car accident down in Dominican Republic. This guy's a hell of a story. 6'7", signed his first pro deal way back in 2015. Didn't debut until a couple years ago. Now he's an all-star. What a hell of a story. So, again, that's just the way that I look at things. By the way, on the Western Dodge text line, 902-518-3033, you can always reach us here in the studio and, of course, the streaming chat. Rob writes in, he is in Regina, Sask, and he says, hey, Rod, I love how you tell it how it is. And I agree with you. Calm down, everyone. This has to do with yesterday's show, Darren, and that's how this show is different than any other one you're going to see on television. Trust me, it is. If people should know that by now. But everybody was freaking out about various things on the show yesterday. You weren't on it. I think part of the reason they were freaking out was that you weren't on it. But a USB cord connecting my microphone to my laptop took a crap right in the middle of the show. So all of us, so right in the middle of that, we had the laptop is running up its condenser mic, and everybody's bitching about that. Why do I hear somebody breathing? I'm like, can you all just calm down? And I said, come back on Tuesday in a better frame of mind and stop bitching. So that all went down yesterday. It's not the end of the world. It happens on the big, big, big networks too. Not that Game Plus isn't ESPN. We feel that it is, but it's not the same. Yeah. So back to this Ron and Don thing just for a second, because we have 90 seconds left. Do you think they will ever reconcile? I never asked your thoughts on this.
It's getting towards the end. It's getting towards the end. And what I mean is they're not getting younger. And unfortunately, when you listen to Don, he's aging quite quickly. I don't know, man. I'd like to see it. I think we all want to see it, repaired, but I just have this feeling that it's not going to be. And that makes me sad. Well,
at the in less than a minute here, that's exactly my take. It's sad, and that's what I put in my commentary, and I've talked about this. But this is the poll question today to turn those frowns upside down. What's the most famous Canadian television duo of all time? This will be like speaking Mandarin to a lot of our U.S. viewers. They have no idea. But is it Ron MacLean and Don Cherry, who I voted for from Hockey Night in Canada? Is it Bob and Doug McKenzie? Some said that they did. Jay and Dan from TSN? Or Casey and Finnegan? Think about that, Moose. Let Let it marinate. Let it marinate. You vote on that, and we'll talk about that and all these other topics when we come back. We're live on a Tuesday on the Game Plus television network and streaming live.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with The Rod Peterson Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Peterson Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Peterson Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Peterson Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Peterson Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with The Rod Peterson Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Peterson Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Peterson Show.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
It is the Rod Peterson Show, and we're in one already on a Tuesday. It's the warm-up where we go through the quick six show topics of importance to me. And the Moose is with us. He's in Toronto, or as Don Cherry calls it, Tirana. And I'll get to more on that in a second. From the Western Dodge text line, Scott writes in from Moose Jaw, and he says, meeting you in person last week was on my bucket list. Thank you. Thank you, Scott. What's next on your bucket list? I'd love to know. Darcy's watching in Grand Prairie, Alberta. He says, Cruz hit the farthest home run last night, 513 feet. Oh, I know, it was awesome. We were watching it, talking about this guy's strike zone at 6'7". We loved the All-Star Home Run Derby last night. I hope everybody else did too. So the poll question for fun is, what is Canada's most famous TV duo of all time? Ron McLean and Don Cherry from Hockey Night in Canada. What else did I say, Moose? I'm blanking.
Bob and
Jay and
Doug,
Dan from
Jay and
TSN.
Dan.
Bob and Doug McKenzie,
Casey
the
and
hosers.
Finnegan.
And Casey and Finnegan from the children's show, Mr. Dress Up. There's been some people have written in, by the way, with some good comments. Wayne and Schuster, which I would suggest is probably before your time, Darren. Some people have written in with some duos that I've never even heard of. Can you at least use your brain, people? Maybe they're big to you, but can we think? I'm voting Ron and Don because of a 30-plus year spread of dominance. On the 30-plus years, none of these other guys lasted that long. That's my vote, but what's yours?
Yeah, it's Ron and Don for me too, and that's what I grew up with, right? So yeah, Ron and Don, no doubt. I mean, yeah, we can all have duos that were meaningful to us, but yeah, what has reach and connection, and I think it's even more impactful that they came from sports, which generally is somewhat niche, and everybody in the country, I think, knew Ron and Don.
Yeah, and Darren gave his point there earlier that this situation, the latest spat between Ron MacLean and Don Cherry is sad, and it is indeed sad. But the whole idea of this show was to be a midday sports talk coffee session like The View, but of sports. And we never really got away from that, but we probably don't spend as much time on that as we should. So I've gone back and forth on this Ron and Don thing because I'm a huge fan of both. They've both been on this show since the split. They've both been on. And but in this case, I got to agree with Don Cherry in that, why are you bringing it up, Ron? Why are you bringing it up? Which furthermore, I went home yesterday and I turned on Game Plus Television and I watched the show The Sports Wrap. It follows ours, and gave Jason Page, the host, a follow. He wrote me back and said, it's nice. Thanks for reaching out. Thanks for connecting. Great to have another Game Plus TV host. I watched their show for a while. They were talking about NASCAR and poker. And I watched it because it was the best thing on television. I'm not into NASCAR or poker, but I watched it because they seemed like good guys. And what that did was give me license to realize I can talk about whatever the hell we want on this show. They are. So that's what we do. And if you don't like it, change the channel, as they say in Slapshot. Sean Gay La Canal. So, to football notes, we got a few before we get to the CFL. The NFL's New York Jets and wide receiver Garrett Wilson have agreed on a 4-year, $130 million contract extension. The deal runs through the 2030 season. Meanwhile, former NFL quarterback Teddy Bridgewater said he has been suspended from coaching his former high school team in Miami because he provided players with financial benefits that he insists he had reported to the school. The 32-year-old Bridgewater publicized action taken against him by Miami Northwestern High School. In a social media post, school officials did not return. I got thoughts, but when you hear that, that's the big sign with Garrett Wilson and now Teddy Bridgewater. Do you have any thoughts on that or no?
I mean, it is pretty crazy. I mean, I've seen the Teddy Bridgewater stuff, and I don't claim to know the ins and outs of the story, but it has just been an outpouring from the football community defending Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, a couple $100,000. He's like, the things he's doing for these kids, supporting them and providing for them when they may not be able to have families that can provide for themselves, and the opportunities he's creating. This isn't cheating. This isn't anything like that. This man should be celebrated for what he's doing, not only to grow the game, but to grow and enrich these kids' lives. So that's the message. I'm glad the support is there. I understand, the rules are very strict and there's going to be a suspension and all the rest, but I like to think about intention and what's the spirit of the rule and all of the rest. And I think Teddy Bridgewater can sleep at night knowing hasn't done anything nefarious. I think he's done things for the right reason.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I don't want to blow the whistle on anybody, and I will not. I might blow the kazoo, the quick six show horn. But this is realizing you're going to discipline Teddy Bridgewater from what I understand, paying kids or giving them out in pocket. This is where I live. So what I'm realizing, listen closely, everybody, everybody's speeding. As a matter of fact, in South Florida, they are. You've driven with me. Everybody's speeding down the I-95. Why does that guy get pulled over and given a ticket? Do you know what I'm saying? Because I'd heard a rumor from Johnny O. You've now met Johnny. He said, Rod, we were having lunch at the Jamaican Grill. He's like, Rod, I heard a rumor, Rod, that a high school is coaching high school is paying a quarterback $250,000. Do you believe that, Rod? Said, I don't know, Johnny, but I'll do a little checking. I dug around because I'm in those circles. Oh, yeah, it's true. And we all know what school it is. I'm not going to name them. It's not Miami Northwestern, by the way, but everybody knows what school it is. How come they get away with it, but Teddy Bridgewater gets nailed for putting up money out of his own pocket? That's where it gets scary. Cancel culture's not entirely over, and somebody's got a problem with Teddy Bridgewater. That's my take on that situation. 902-518-3033. Are you ready for NFL training camps with rookies reporting for half of the teams this week and the other half reporting next week?
Oh, yeah, I'm ready. I'm starting to see the coverage, too, and getting excited. I'm like, where did the summer go? Because, they come back, and for them, their summer's kind of over with training camp starting or signals the end of it. It's only July. I mean, I guess the training camp starts summer, but it went by fast, man. The offseason went by fast.
By the way, that high school paying $250,000 to their starting quarterback in South Florida is not Cardinal Gibbons High School. It's not the school that Matt DeBuck coaches. He's in the same league as this school, but it's not Matt. He was on the show yesterday doing a real nice job wrapping up week 7 in the CFL and wrapping up week 6, looking forward to week 7, which is this week. But I have not had your thoughts on I'll get your comments, everybody. Hang on. On the Smoke Bowl coming out of week 6. Let's be honest. You can imagine here in the Wheat Province, not only are they still talking about it, they'll be talking about it for years. Friday night's game at Mosaic Stadium, Canada's football shrine in the football capital, was delayed until the next day because of smoke. The only problem was bad air quality. The only problem was the stadium was full of fans who were forced to wait for 4 hours before the plug was pulled. And people are saying, pointing the finger at the CFL, not the riders, which I think is the right blame. If you got to assign blame, I think it's at the CFL. And people were saying yesterday, when are they going to come out and admit they blew this? I said, well, people don't usually do that. From where you sat, Moose, how did you watch this unfold?
Yeah, my reaction is, who cares? At this point, who cares about coming out and admitting you were wrong or admitting blame? But I do like that, Stuart Johnson came out and talked about, learning from it and where they can move going forward, because that's all you can do, right? The saying, experience is something you get right after you needed it, about going through these situations. And, yeah, I mean, can always be handled better. But, I mean, whatever. If I'm in there for 4 hours, I'm going to look back on this and be like, what a cool experience, kind of. I mean, yeah, it's a bit of a pain in the butt and all the rest. But you've experienced something like nobody really gets to experience. And I hope if you were at the stadium for 4 hours, you made the most of it. Maybe you turned it into one giant cocktail party with you and your friends. Maybe you met some new friends. You kind of had a sleepover almost, or a little outing at the football stadium, like something you don't usually get to do. And I hope you made the most of it and didn't just complain for 4 hours. Like the rain game with Edmonton in there against Saskatchewan. I was under the bleachers in the blackout. I had fun. It rained. We stayed. We had drinks. We met new people. We joked around like, oh my, isn't this something? Almost like a giant snow day. And then we went out. We all left our seats, flooded the front of the field. We were packed in there like a rock concert, trying to get to the front row. It was this moment we'll remember forever. So you can either complain about it or you can just embrace that it was this unique thing and, move on.
Scruffy was good in your spot yesterday, but I missed you. But I'll tell you what I said to Scruffy yesterday. Probably 10 to 12 times over the weekend, I thought to myself, with this schmozzle and the people that were upset and the rebates that were given out or the vouchers, I'm like, my God, am I glad I have nothing to do with this anymore, i.e. having to fill the time on the air, because we've been in those shoes. It's not easy nor fun. Or having to defend the team and defend the league, because that's your job. If anybody's been following our coverage since Friday, I've been sitting back not pointing the finger at anybody other than to say, what a catastrophe. They're damned if they do, damned if they don't. If they play, the players are going to be pissed off and probably file a grievance. They did that last year when they had to play in Calgary. If you don't play, you're going to piss all these people off. And what I think about is, as having been the voice of the Saskatchewan Roughriders for 20 years, I know that fans don't just drive from across town. Some come from 8-10 hours away driving every damn game. And some come without a hotel room and they drive back after the game. What are you going to do? Just an absolute catastrophe. To be honest, the bitching wasn't as high as I thought it would be, given they sat in the stadium for 4 hours and then had to come back the next day. And a lot of people didn't have accommodations. And it really was nobody's fault. As you said, experience, what'd you say, is you have it as soon as you needed it?
Something you get right after you needed it.
Yeah. So just a bad situation all around. And then I see them saying, oh, we need to update our communication policy in the event of this ever happens again. Yeah, and then the Riders get their ass kicked on top of that, which we talked about after the fact here yesterday. 24-10, the Calgary Stampeders kicked the crap out of them. So Jeff, the Stamps fan, says, writes, he says 80% of Rider season ticket holders are within 60K. Totally aware of that, Jeff. I also said, what about the other 20% that drove 8 to 10 hours? I'm talking about the people that were affected. 80% could go sleep in their own beds. What about the other 20%, Jeff? Screw them. Those are the people that I was concerned for. And kind of sitting back going, thank God I don't got to worry about that again, because somebody's going to be pissed off no matter what. 902-518-3033 is the Western Dodge text line. I will not be reading any negative comments about Ron MacLean because he is a friend. I'll say this again. People are pissed off that he was supposed to quit over Don. I went through that with my color guy here. He got fired, and there were people upset that I didn't stand behind him. What was I supposed to do? Quit? And same thing, he got himself fired. Like, oh my God, I'm not going down that road. How much CFL football did you watch on the weekend, Moose?
I watched quite a bit. I thought it was another good week of CFL football. And, it's 4 full days or 3 days this weekend, I believe it ended up being, or 2 days. And it was because the game got moved. But, yeah, hard to believe we're a third of the way through the season already. It's moving really fast. But, yeah, I was watching.
Whew. When we come back, we're going to get to the NHL notes. We got a lot of really fun things coming down the pipe with the RP show, everybody, that I'm just going to have to invite you to stay tuned for. I've been scolded into not divulging any more details than I can, that I should. But I'm very excited, as is Moose, with where this is going. People writing in on Ron and Don. And our poll question, who's the most famous Canadian TV duo of all time? Tony from Cochrane says the Smothers Brothers. Would you actually vote for the Smothers Brothers over Ron MacLean and Don Cherry or Bob and Doug McKenzie? Would you? That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying name all the ones you can think of. That's not the question. The question is, who's the most famous? We'll pick this up when we come back here live on Game Plus Television and streaming.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Peterson Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Peterson Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Peterson Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Peterson Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more. There's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Peterson Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with The Rod Peterson Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Peterson Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Peterson Show.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina. This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Peterson Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Peterson Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Live coast to coast on Game Plus Television in Canada and 32 U.S. states. One more segment with the Moose. I promised you that we would get to some hockey notes. The Buffalo Sabres avoided arbitration with Bowen Byram late last night by re-signing the restricted free agent defenseman to a 2-year contract worth $12.5 million. Hall of Fame defenseman Paul Coffey will not be behind the Edmonton Oilers bench next season, and the NHL team is also parting ways with goaltending coach Dustin Schwartz. As I said yesterday, I believe that was Coffey's decision not to be on the bench. He didn't plan, I don't think, to be back on the bench this year like last season. The Winnipeg Jets have signed forward Morgan Barron to a 2-year contract extension with an average annual value of $1.85 million. And the Florida Panthers will raise their second straight Stanley Cup banner before opening the NHL season against the Chicago Blackhawks. It'll be 5 p.m. Eastern, October 7th, part of a triple header to kick off the NHL season. The Rangers will host Pittsburgh at 8 Eastern, and then the LA Kings will face Colorado in the late game at like 10 Eastern. So that's all the hockey news in the last 24 hours. Any thoughts on that, Rimouski?
Yeah, there are going to be changes, and losing a little of that continuity in Edmonton, that'll be a challenge. It'll be a challenge because the locker room, the culture, the bench, all of that, I think has been pretty high. I mean, to get to back-to-back Stanley Cup Finals, forget about winning or losing. You need great culture to do that, and so you're losing some pretty big pieces. Glenn Gulletson, at times you look at Schwartz. Forget about how good your goaltenders play. These are people that are part of that organization, part of and Paul Coffey, part of your day-to-day. Now you're going to bring new personalities into that. Not saying Edmonton needs to be on edge or anything like that. They're going to put good people in there, but it is going to be a bit of an adjustment.
It's a hell of a conundrum for the Oilers. And I'm just fascinated by that market. Back-to-back trips to the Stanley Cup Finals, both losses in Game 7 and Game 6, and everybody wants to blow everything up. Fire the goalie coach, move out Paul Coffey. I'm sure Glenn Gulletson left on his own volition, obviously, and a step up to the Dallas Stars. 2 very good seasons, but it doesn't end the way that you want, so changes need to be made, and I'm not saying it's wrong, right? It's just wild. Okay, to the Western Dodge text line, 902-518-3033. Drive with confidence. Shop Western Dodge in Moose Jaw. Financing, selection, and service you can count on. Scott here in Moose Jaw regarding just games. I'm not sure exactly what he's referring to here. That's on me, not him. He goes, just like the Jets versus Flames game in 2019 at Mosaic. Great experience. Right? That was a bit of a schmozzle. I was there. Like will be the title of my next book. I was there. And I think you were there too. And the game was delayed like an hour and a half because they couldn't get everybody through the security lines. We'd never had an NHL game in Regina before, not regular season, and sure as hell not in a football stadium. So spit happens. Ray is watching in Scarborough, Ontario regarding the Canadian Football League, Moose, and he says it seems one step forward, two steps back with the Edmonton Elks. Boy, they were horrible this weekend. I was talking to DeBuck on this show about it yesterday. I looked at the stats after the Edmonton game. Trey Ford's QBR, quarterback rating, was 16.2. I was literally like, I do this a lot with my age. Is that a comma, a decibel, and do I have it in the wrong spot? 16.2? I knew he didn't have a great game. I didn't think he was that bad, but that's what the numbers were.
Yeah, it wasn't great. But I would say this to fans across the league and just in general. Don't, overreact. Don't get too high after one game. Don't get too low after one game. It was not great. It was not great. And the same thing with Calgary. I mean, everybody got really excited after the win over Winnipeg, and we're touting them as the best team in the league. And I'm like, no, you can't just one game. You got to back that up. And they backed it up by smacking around Saskatchewan, which is pretty good. Still not good enough to be considered necessarily the best team in the league. Like I pulled up the power rankings or the betting odds again, and I got them over here because I told you everybody last week. I said, look, Calgary's still, 6th or 7th, I think they were last week after the win over Winnipeg. I said, if you think this team's good, put some money on them. Well, they've jumped up in the rankings for sure to 3rd. Still behind Montreal, still behind Winnipeg. It goes Montreal, Winnipeg, Calgary, and then Saskatchewan. So, I mean, the betting companies aren't overreacting after 2 really good weeks for Calgary, but they're noticing. And so with Edmonton, I think they hope that this is a 1-week trend after 2 really good weeks taking steps forward. They'll need to bounce back, though.
Shai writes in and says, is the head coaching job in Edmonton in jeopardy? Now, I would say they just hired him, so I would say no. But you also never know. Like in 2011, when I was voice of the Rough Riders, we gave Greg Marshall his first ever head coaching job. And while I didn't necessarily believe he needed to be fired, the powers that be did. So in his first season at 1-7, Greg Marshall was fired. And Grandpa Miller, good morning, Riders, came back to the rescue and never was able to get us into the playoffs. So it's not completely out of the line, I guess, to say is Mark Killam's job in jeopardy, but my word, pretty good chance he's safe, Moose. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he's safe too. I really do. I mean, to me, there's never no chance, but no, that would be foolish. This is a team that needs a lot of rope, a lot of room to grow. And growth isn't necessarily going to come in wins and losses either. The process that Mark Killam wants to see this team play week in and week out needs to be there. The results will come, but I'm sure this is a multi-year plan. Maybe 2 years, maybe 3, but this is going to be a plan of growth. And I think we've seen some growth already this year.
Carlos in Indianapolis watching, just loves what we talk about every day, and we appreciate him showing up. He says, don't overreact. Overreaction is a staple of the media. To quote Matt Dunnigan, doesn't make it right. You know what I mean? I get so tired of it, especially when I'm back home in America, and especially in the fall, because the problem there is they do know football. In Canada, we know hockey. In America, they know football. So everybody's overreacting, especially with the NFL and also college football. And I get tired in both countries of it. I get tired. You might be right, but I'm just tired of the overreacting. Can we just hang on? People are talking about Ottawa. What are they now? 1-5, 1-4, 1-5, whatever it is. And they're talking about the coach up there being fired. And what I think the thing that annoys me the most, Darren, is people don't listen when I talk. It's what Luke Wilson's going through right now. He thinks everybody should agree with him. They're not always going to agree with you, and then they're not always going to listen. But teams don't want to fire people. Put it on my tombstone. Teams do not want to fire people. It's literally the last resort when they do. Let me ask you this, because I don't think Mark Killam in Edmonton's in trouble. I don't think Bob Dice is in trouble in Ottawa. But who will be the first coach fired in the CFL? If any. Ooh. If any. Probably none.
Yeah, probably none. I think just based on it, and Bob Dice has been there longer than Mark Killam has. I would say he's like if you got to put somebody first, I would say he probably has the biggest target, or is the seat's the hottest, or whatever, because he's been there longer than Mark Killam, and I don't think Mark Killam's seat is hot at all. Everybody else, I think, relatively safe. I think everybody's safe. I really do. I think teams that are underperforming. Toronto, but I think Ryan Dinwiddie is extremely safe based on his recent performance. He doesn't have a starting quarterback either, till maybe this week, maybe next, maybe whenever. So no, it's tough, but I don't see a lot of hot seats right now.
I did not mean to put you on the spot. I mean, it just came up. I mean, it's fun to talk about in the NFL, which we're going to be talking a lot more NFL. Rookie camps opening in half the league's markets this week, and the other half get going next week. There's just so much more to talk about in the National Football League, and it's pretty easy to spot, who's going to be the first coach fired in that league. CFL is such a smaller league, and I go back to this thing where that the owners and the GMs don't want to fire coaches if they don't have to. We've got a whole ton of messages I'll get to after the break with Moose on the Western Dodge text line. You have 50 seconds to tell me what you're going to do for the next 22 hours. Not that I'm reporting on you or anything, but what's up in Toronto?
Yeah, it's a gorgeous week. I mean, we are in a heat wave out here. Every day is over 30 degrees. So I'll tell you, in the next 22 hours, I'm going to spend a lot of it outside. That's going to be a real big part of it. And then prepping to get back to the 306, to the rectangle. So I'll be back there over the weekend and the most of next week. So looking forward to that.
Great job, Moose. It goes fast.
See you tomorrow.
Darren Moose DuPont, our co-host, will be coming right back with a sports update and then viewer takeover for the next 40 minutes till Matt Stairs joins us, Major League Baseball record holder, and now with the WCBL to preview a Saturday's All-Star game. Be right back.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Peterson Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Peterson Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Peterson Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Peterson Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Peterson Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Peterson Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Peterson Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw-up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Peterson Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Peterson Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Peterson Show.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
All right, everybody, we're back live. Episode number 1534 of Canada's favorite daytime sports talk show. And also airing in 32 U.S. states on the Game Plus television network. Let's have some fun. Not that we weren't with Moose, but it's just mano a mano now. And on the poll question for EMJ Marketing, which, by the way, elevate your brand and engage your audience with EMJ Marketing. Check out emjmarketing.com. Who's the most famous Canadian TV duo of all time? Having some fun with this one. Leading the way, Ron and Don. And by the way, I came up with these options along with our business manager, Joe Gunnis, who you all are going to meet on Friday on this show. But Ron and Don lead with 40% of the vote from Hockey Night in Canada. 34% saying Bob and Doug McKenzie. And I'll be honest, for those of us children of the 80s, loved Bob and Doug McKenzie. Literally could not wait for them to come on SCTV. And they had the albums, they had the movie, Bob and Doug McKenzie, the Hosers. We were running around school, all of it. Oh, my God. Still not as famous as Ron and Don, though. And the results show that 17% say Casey and Finnegan. We had a kid in our class, Casey Garrett. The poor bugger. Every day he'd show up for school and we'd say, hey, Casey, where's Finnegan? Every day. And Jay and Dan from TSN, 9% of the vote. The comments from the viewers are almost as amusing. Fake Gainer writes and he says, were Moose and the Reverend banned from this poll? I'm humble enough, realistic enough to know not to put myself and Moose in this poll. Give me a break. Even though we've been on national television for now 7 seasons. Just saying, not a big deal. Joe, the Stamps fan, writes in, he says, the Leafs and Canadians had the best of all-time crews in the 1970s. Yeah, but if we can't remember their names, were they really? Are they like Danny Gallivan? Yes. Bob Cole and Harry Neal. Trust me, I thought of those guys. But I think we got the right 4. A-Dub writes in, says Wayne and Schuster. A lot of people voting for Wayne and Schuster. But here's the sad thing about all of this. Our U.S. viewers have no idea what we're talking about. And not that matters. As I learned yesterday from watching the Sports Wrap, which comes on after us here on Game Plus Television, where they were talking about NASCAR and poker. We can talk about whatever the hell we want. Just be entertaining. Pretty sure we got that handled. Wayne and Schuster, Ron and Don. Now, Ron and Don are different. They left an indelible mark. But for a lot of us that aren't in the stratosphere of Ron and Don, you would like to think that you've left a legacy in this entertainment business. But then you realize after a time, you were just doing a job. Thanks for tuning in. Sports update. Toronto Blue. Hang on. From the Western Dodge text line, I forgot about this. Where's the guy? Greg in Calgary writes in and says, I didn't know that Jay and Dan had a feud. I thought Dan was let go for cost cutting. They didn't have a feud. We said something earlier on this program that alluded to that or made you think that, it's on us. We're wrong. No. Jay and Dan not only didn't have a feud, they're still close friends. And on the weekend, I was down in Estevan, Sask, and we were reflecting on the Jay and Dan Craft Celebration Tour. Remember when they went all across Canada? Whoa. I'm sure Dan O'Toole wouldn't mind if I said now. Some of the bar owners. Funny how I was friends with all the bar owners. There was stuff going on in the bar, and Dan was like, no cameras. No cameras. He's like, just so you know, all he was doing was pouring beer behind the thing. Dan was. But he didn't want that out. And then, as you say, Greg, you're right. He got let go by Bell Media for cost cutting. You kind of sit back and go, what the hell was I worried about? You know, when you end up getting shown the door and clipped, you say, why was I so worried about all those little things? Wilf writes in from Steinbach, Manitoba. He says, hi, Rod and Moose. Ron and Don get my vote. Note that the Legion sold a record amount of poppies because of Don's comment. I think most people watching know what the story is. Don Cherry, last appearance ever on Hockey Night in Canada, went after immigrants for not wearing poppies and honoring the Canadian war dead. And at that time, I remember watching it. I was doing a banquet that night in Paradise Hill, Saskatchewan, with Daryl and Brian Sutter and Rachel Holman. And I remember coming back to my room, turning on the television. I'm like, oh, boy, he's done. And as I've said, Ron McLean's been on this show and Don Cherry's been on this show, both of them separately since the incident. And my thing on this was, why did you have to go after the immigrants for not wearing poppies? Because there's a lot of people born and raised in this country that don't wear poppies either. So I just felt if he'd went after everybody who doesn't wear a poppy, regardless of where they were born or what their passport says, he'd probably still have a job to this day. That's what the Ron McLean defenders are saying is McLean didn't do anything wrong. Cherry did this all to himself. There is that, but so many Canadians don't want to hear it. Gary's watching in Winnipeg on the text line. He says, my all-time favorite comedian for me will always be Wayne and Schuster. I applaud them for promoting Canadiana. I often watch their shows that are available on YouTube. The only time I ever saw Ed Sullivan laugh is after a Wayne and Schuster performance on his show. That's hilarious. I had no idea. Which, by the way, is another thing that Cherry did relate. You should go back, look it up on YouTube when Don Cherry was on this show, because he related a few things. And he said he was worried that Canadians would forget about him, which hit me right here. When I say Don did this to himself, doesn't mean I don't love Don Cherry. I read all his books, had all his videos, wore his clothes, the ties, and all the stuff. I love Don Cherry, but let's be honest. I got myself fired from my last job. So I'm not casting any dispersions here, but after Don Cherry was let go, or, was given the opportunity to apologize, and he said, no thanks, I'm done. Did you see anybody else lining up to help him out? I didn't see a GoFundMe account put together for Don Cherry. I don't think he needed it. But what I'm saying is he went and started his own podcast, and Bob's your uncle, but I didn't see any other television network racing in. That's the other thing. When you get clipped at the end, you just say, why did I put everything on the line? Kirk writes in from Toronto. He goes, when Chad Kelly does return from the Argos, I have my doubts he can save this Argos season, but never say never. Heads will roll if a team continues to lose. Hired to be fired, as the saying goes. That also is fair, and it's funny that you say that. The topic that came up earlier with Moose, by me, not Darren, is who will be the first coach fired in the CFL. And it's amazing because on my Panthers show that I do in Florida, I brought up last year, and in the column that I was writing for the South Florida Tribune, who would be the first NHL coach fired, and people got mad at me. Rod, that's not positive. You shouldn't be talking about stuff like that. What? We used to talk about this stuff all the time. It's a staple of what this sports media industry is. Who cares? Which, by the way, somebody's going to get fired. I have not lost my way. There's no doubt about that. as we sit here in season 7 on Game Plus television, but I just don't understand. We're not allowed to talk about this anymore. Who's going to get fired? What? Says who? Oh! Scott Moosejaw writes in and says, Bert and Ernie. Yeah. Probably should have put them in our poll. Everybody knows Bert and Ernie, but Sesame Street isn't Canadian. They are imports, not non-imports. Scott Moosejaw also says, Don Cherry got the shaft. All he said was, you people. Well, I'll say it again. Don Cherry is like my dad. Don Cherry, is he not like everybody's dad? Would you put your dad on television? I wouldn't. It was hilarious. I was talking to a hockey guy. Actually, no, he's a TV guy in Calgary, but he knew my dad. And he was like, you and your dad are awfully similar. The only difference is you're a lot more emotional than he is, a lot more hot-headed. I'm like, what? Maybe we should have had a camera on my dad when a cow wouldn't go in the gate that he was supposed to. And he had his coho, or when he couldn't get the combine fixed. Got that huge wrench. He was inventing swears that I'd never even heard of before. My dad, I'm just the guy that's got a camera in his face all day, every day. I am a tenth as emotional as my dad was, who incidentally is going into the Western Canadian Pro Scouting Hockey Hall of Fame July 29th, and we'll be broadcasting live from Okotoks for that. Tony says, throw some money in the Poppy box anyway. It's for the veterans. There's a lot of comments here we're going to have to break. Captain Lou says, on your poll question, if I can't choose you and Darren, then it's Bob and Doug for sure. Bob and Doug McKenzie, look, they have a very, very, very special place in Canadiana, but even they didn't have a 30-year run like Ron and Don. Like, do we not appreciate longevity in this business, or for that matter, any business? It's a perilous freaking trade, man. And I get it from kids all the time. How would you explain your longevity, Rod? I'm like, I have no idea, because they should have got rid of me long ago. No idea. Anyways, hour 2 is coming up, and Matt Stairs will be joining us. It's going to be great right here on Game Plus TV.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit spirit of Italian. Come in. Enjoy.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with The Rod Peterson Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Peterson Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Peterson Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Peterson Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Peterson Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
It's hour 2 of Canada's favorite daytime sports talk show. We're on the Game Plus television network and airing in 32 U.S. states. I'm going to tell you, the show that comes on after ours, and you guys in the Game Plus control room, you know those Cowboys down there on the Sports Wrap starring Jason Page. I talked to him yesterday. They come on right after us. So I'm watching them yesterday, and they're talking about NASCAR and poker. There are 8 million things to talk about just in sports alone. And I sat and watched it, and I enjoyed it. And Jason's in Vegas. I said, I hope that we get to meet one day. It inspired me to realize we can talk about whatever the hell we want to talk about here, too, even though we air in both countries. And Matt Stairs is coming up, a guy that is recognizable in both countries. Matt Stairs in the next segment, just so you know. I won't burn time introducing him when he joins us next segment. Matt Stairs was the MVP of the 2008 NLCS on the way to winning a World Series with the Philadelphia Phillies. He holds the Major League Baseball record for career pinch hit home runs. That's not some Rudy Poo record that nobody's ever heard about. That's a big deal. Major League Baseball record holder Matt Stairs for most career pinch hit home runs will be joining us in the next segment. And the reason is he is at the Okotoks Baseball Academy just outside Calgary. They're hosting the All-Star Game on Saturday. I went out there last year and spent good time with Matt Stairs, and we got on well. And we were standing there. I think he might have been having a dart. He had a chew. That's what it was. And I said, how does it feel to hold a record for most career pinch hit home runs in MLB history? He goes, I prefer dingers. Like, oh, dingers it is. And he will be with us next segment talking about Major League Baseball and a variety of other things. But regarding the Canada thing, our poll question is this. Who's the most famous Canadian TV duo of all time? And why are we talking about it? Because of all the things we talked about on Monday's Rod Peterson show right here, which was the home run derby, and we're going to get to all those things. CFL Week 6 play coming out of the weekend, the Edmonton Oilers firing their goalie coach. The most viewed clip out of the whole show, thousands of views on TikTok. They tell me this because I'm not even on TikTok. Our staff told me. Was our clip of Ron and Don and how they're fighting again. Ron MacLean and Don Cherry, 2 men classified as senior citizens who we all love having their latest spat. And it's just the whole idea of it is sad, but to make it a positive thing, the poll question is, who is the most famous Canadian TV duo of all time? And by the way, leading the poll is Ron and Don. For the American viewers that have no idea who we're talking about, those 2 guys from Hockey Night in Canada are the most famous duo in Canadian TV history. Bob and Doug McKenzie is next at 34%. 18% voting for Casey and Finnegan, the puppets on the Mr. Dress Up children's show, which I loved. One of the greatest days of my life was meeting Ernie Coombs in the lobby of CFSL Radio Weyburn. I was 19. And 9% voting for Jay and Dan from TSN, which was a whole other thing. When podcasts were just getting going, theirs was the most popular podcast in Canada. They were the late-night TV anchors on SportsCenter, similar to your Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann. They're Canada's version of that. They went coast to coast with a live podcast, filled arenas, filled halls. It was amazing. And then one of them got let go. Sad. It doesn't end well for really anybody. And there have been a lot of write-in votes for Wayne and Schuster, which, to be honest, if I'd have been a bigger fan of theirs, I would have thought to put them in the poll, but I'm a bigger fan of Casey and Finnegan than Wayne and Schuster. Nothing against Wayne and Schuster. It's just not my thing. Wilf in Steinbach, Manitoba. Great guy. We're having a small argument. I won't let you in on the details of it, but he says, hey, Rod, famous duo could be Austin Powers and Dr. Evil. I said, we're talking Canadian TV duos. That's all I'm saying. Can we stay on point? Can we please stay on point? That's the poll question. The most famous Canadian TV duos of all time. Not famous duos, not Batman and Robin, no. The quick 6 show topics. Let's do it again, Sam. The big story, which people want to talk about the Ron and Don feud, but I'm done with that. The big story was the home run derby last night with his father Todd pitching and younger brother Todd Jr. catching. Cal Raleigh of the Seattle Mariners won his first All-Star home run derby by beating the Tampa Bay Rays Junior Caminero 18-15 in Monday's final round in Atlanta. Raleigh beat Pittsburgh's O'Neill Cruz in a semifinal. He's the first Mariner to win the home run derby since Ken Griffey Jr. I watched it all from 6 o'clock until, as I sit there as a broadcast person and a TV person, look at my watch the second it was over. Yep, 8:57. Talk about made for TV. And you think it's all random. It ain't. And talked about this last hour when Moose was with us. Scruffy was on here bitching that Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani weren't in it, and for that matter, Vladdy in the home run derby. I didn't even stop to think about that. Who cares? I just enjoy the show. I saw a thing on Twitter, somebody asking some broadcast Twitter account saying, did you miss Chris Berman calling the home run derby? I like Chris Berman, but I never liked him on the home run derby because how many home runs were hit last night? Hundreds of home runs. And it's not Chris Berman's fault, but how many times can you say, back? I'm calling baseball now, trying to find a new way to call a home run. It became very redundant. A lot of people said, no, they don't miss him on there. Just saying. But I'm sitting on the couch watching it, and it's kind of fun to learn about new players like O'Neill Cruz. He's not new, but he's new-ish. He's only been in the majors a couple of years with the Pittsburgh Pirates. 6'7" from the Dominican Republic, and his dad named him after Paul O'Neill. Like, that's great stuff. It's entertainment. What the hell do you want? It was a good time. Some football notes. From the NFL, New York Jets and wide receiver Garrett Wilson have agreed on a 4-year, $130 million contract extension. The deal runs through 2030. And former NFL quarterback Teddy Bridgewater said he has been suspended from coaching his former high school team in Miami because he provided players with financial benefits that he insists he had reported to the school. The 32-year-old Bridgewater publicized action taken against him by Miami Northwestern High School in a social media post. School officials did not return messages. I don't know if Matt Stairs is logged in yet or not, and it's not, he's a baseball guy, but he's also a pro sports guy. Because I live there, I understand the scope of this. I talked to a scout, it was an NFL scout, who went down to a game between Miami Northwestern and Miami Central. It was the day after the game. It was televised on ESPN, for the love of God, a high school football game. I talked to him the next day. I said, how was the game? He goes, it was a college game. I'm like, well, I thought it was high school. No, it was, but it was a college game. And so for Teddy Bridgewater to be sanctioned by his own school from what I understand, giving financial benefits to the players out of his own pocket technically is illegal. I think that's, nobody would argue that if it's against the rules, it's against the rules. But rumor is there is a high school in that league paying their quarterback $250,000 a year. And most people would not believe that is a thing. And in most states, and for sure, there's not a lot of pro quarterbacks in the CFL making that. When you factor in the exchange, high school kid, $250,000 a year as a quarterback. And we all know the school, and I'm not going to say it here, but, I announce high school baseball down there. It's a big deal. So I was talking to some of the dads. 3 former major leaguers' kids play on the baseball team that I announce for. And I said to one of the dads, would you believe that there's a high school paying $250,000 to their quarterback? He's like, yeah, of course. I'm from here. Hello. It's not what you think. What up, Corey? Oh, no, you're good. It's all good. No, it was a rhetorical hello. Before I jump back to the Canadian Football League, why a lot of you came here today, continuing in the Quick Six show topics. From hockey, the Buffalo Sabres avoided arbitration with Bowen Byram late last night by re-signing the restricted free agent defenseman to a 2-year contract worth $12.5 million. Good friend of mine, Jared, wrote me and said, do you think they did this to eventually trade him? I said, I don't know. It's July. I'm not thinking about it. I'd like to think that Bowen Byram is part of the future there in Buffalo, but God knows. I wonder how far they plan ahead in Buffalo. Hall of Fame defenseman Paul Coffey will not be behind the Edmonton Oilers bench next season, and the NHL team is also parting ways with goaltending coach Dustin Schwartz. In my mind, quick thought, hot take, Paul Coffey's leaving on his own because I believe he wanted to leave a year ago at this time, and the team wouldn't let him. And 2, Dustin Schwartz isn't the reason the Oilers have goalie problems, but somebody had to walk the plank, so it's the goalie coach. The Winnipeg Jets have signed forward Morgan Barron to a 2-year contract extension with an average annual value of $1.85 million. And the NHL dropped the triple-header schedule for the opening night. Next October the 7th, Florida Panthers will open up at home against Connor Bedard and the Chicago Blackhawks. And I can't wait to be there. I can't wait to be in attendance at the American Bank Arena. I got friends coming down because they're saying, hey, they're Bedard people, obvi. And they said, hey, maybe the Blackhawks will be in Tampa too on this roadie, so let's go. Hashtag LFG, I'm in. Also in that triple header, the Rangers host Pittsburgh, and then it's LA facing Colorado. So there is your hockey news that you can use. If you've been watching this show enough, and you all have, the closer we get to the weekend, the more CFL football we talk. I have written here, CFL week 6 and 7. Anyone to blame for the Smoke Bowl? Moose and I discussed this last week. Kind of sounds like it's brought to you by a cannabis shop. The Smoke Bowl. What we're talking about is Friday night's game was postponed, and it's 11:11 Mountain, 1:11 Eastern. We observe that every day. Please visualize a positive outcome to your current situation. It does work. I'll tell you what it doesn't when it stops working, but it's still working. Is there anybody to blame? No. For fans left in the stadium in Regina for 4 hours waiting for a game because of smoke in the air. Some people get it when I say this. A lot don't. I'm not an environmentalist. I think that's pretty clear. I'm not a weatherman either, and I'm not a doctor. So I guess I enjoyed the talk from everybody. So eventually those fans waited around for 4 hours and then were sent home. Come back tomorrow. We're going to play it at 2. It's not a rec hockey game. It's a pro football game on national television. It was a major schmozzle, right? Can't minimize any of this. So I guess the point is the fans writing on Twitter and Facebook, while entertaining, they don't know. Pretty sure they're not doctors either. Hey, my kid was out playing baseball till 8 in this same small. Hey, my elderly mother is sitting in the handicap section. She's fine. Why can't these guys play in it? Very reasonable questions, but also maybe not safe. We're not doctors. And the only egg on the face of the CFL, from what I can see, is them not having a effective communication strategy for the event of this happening. But they're not walking it back saying, oh, we screwed up by not playing. They're saying we followed the protocol. We set out that if the air quality is in these conditions, we're not playing. So we're not playing. CFL's getting hammered on this, and it's not even, from what I understand, their problem. Their fault. It is their problem, but it's not their fault. 902-518-3033. Sometimes I wonder what language I'm speaking. Bomber Boy writes in regarding our poll question, what's the most famous Canadian television duo of all time? And Bomber Boy writes in, he says, is Gretzky and Messier the greatest Canadian duo? What was their show? I missed it. I must have been goofing off when Mark Messier and Wayne Gretzky had their own television show. That's the question. Who's the greatest Canadian TV duo of all time? Ron and Don on Hockey Night in Canada, Jay and Dan from TSN Sports Center and their podcast, Bob and Doug McKenzie, or Casey and Finnegan from Mr. Dress Up. I do have time for the write-in votes, which are Wayne and Schuster. But honestly, I screwed up on that one. I was thinking, silly me, I only went back to 1980. Brent in Wellington, Florida writes, and he says, the act of God clause is every corporation's golden ticket. Smoke definitely falls into it. That's the thing. The CFL can very reasonably say, we didn't do anything wrong. We said if the smoke gets to this quality, we're not playing. So they didn't. And they didn't want to cancel the game. So that's why they had him sit around for 4 hours, hoping that the smoke would clear, because eventually it does. But it didn't. Sometimes spit happens. Sometimes spit happens. And then you got to deal with it. 902-518-3033 is the Western Dodge text line. If you have questions for Matt Stairs, I'd love to hear him. He's coming in next. Major League Baseball great, and he is a great. And from the Okotoks Baseball Academy and the WCBL promoting Saturday's All-Star Game. We'll be right back here on Game Plus Television.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with The Rod Peterson Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Peterson Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Peterson Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with the Rod Peterson Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more. There's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Peterson Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with The Rod Peterson Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Peterson Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show, The Rod Peterson Show.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live. Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Hour 2 of the RP Show is brought to you by Seat Giant. Stop paying U.S. dollars for games and concerts. Canadian owned and operated with Canadians in mind. Super Bowl, college football, Taylor Swift, Justin Timberlake. They've got it all. Use promo code RP Show for 15% off now. Check us out at seatgiant.ca. We got baseball royalty with us. Matt Stairs, welcome to the RP Show. Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame 2015, World Series champ 2008, and record holder. How you doing, Matt?
Rod, I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
Good to see you again. I'm doing great, man. Talking baseball. Excited about this weekend's All-Star game. But I got to say, as a guy that knows a little bit about home runs, can I get your take on last night's home run derby in Atlanta?
Honestly, I didn't watch it. And I think the reason why, the biggest turnoff is just the way it's filmed. The announcers, all they talk about is exit velocity, launch angle. It's just something where, back in the day, you just get up there and hit home runs and had 10 outs, and it was entertaining. Now you have the timeout, and it's like the party at home plate by giving drinks and telling people off, and it's kind of a big show now. And I understand fans enjoy it, but I'm old school. I like the old-fashioned home run derby. Get up there, hit until you get 10 outs, and go from there. So.
Like everything, they've bastardized it. But I will say this. I watched it from the start at 6 o'clock, and then it wrapped up at 8:57. I looked at my watch. I'm like, yep, made-for-TV event. That's what it's become. But can I ask you this? Because I get this from people all the time. I don't know the answer. You're trying to hit home runs. Let's just say BP. You got a guy lobbing in, 60-mile-an-hour pitches at best? Does that not screw with your swing when you're trying to, like in a game, swing for the fence?
I think people who struggle after the All-Star break and the home run contest use it for an excuse. I think when I've never been in a major league home run contest, but I've been in a lot of them. For me, it was just a matter of still having the same approach of trying to hit home runs to center field. If the ball's inside, you just get through it a little quicker. To me, again, it's an excuse for people to use after the home run contest because they took so many swings and it messes up their swing. No, it doesn't. You just had a bad week or you sucked that week or that month. If you take the same approach of thinking up the middle, hit the ball left center, right center, you won't lose your swing. And let's face it, every time I took batting practice, I tried to hit home runs.
Of course you did. Well, and speaking of where I met you last year, it was a year ago at the All-Star game out there in Okotoks, and this year's is coming up. We're going to talk about that. But it was one of the greatest thrills of my broadcast career was being down on the field and watching these guys, the kids from the WCBL. They're out of breath. Matt, that's what people don't understand. That is physically taxing.
It is because it's not something that you practice, right? I mean, you take a round of batting practice, you usually take max of 8 swings per round. And now you're getting up there and taking 25 to 30 swings as quick as you can. I think the biggest thing what happens with home run contests And the reason why they get tired is they start using their body too much to hit. And the more you use your body, the quicker you tire out. So I think the biggest thing is find that rhythm, by using your hands, using your forearms and your lower half properly, and you should be able to hit all day. But these guys, they get fired up a little bit. They want to hit the ball a lot farther than they can. They swing harder, and that's the reason why you see them getting tuckered out.
Well, and the other cool thing, too, is I didn't want to sit here and talk about this all, but we could. We are going to talk about this weekend's event. But sitting there, and I listen. I'm an eavesdropper, not a creep, but an eavesdropper. And each batter had their own pitcher, even in the WCBL All-Star game, and just like last night. So the guys were strategizing over trying to time the pitches because they're like, I'm getting tired, man. Like, there is a lot that goes into it that I think the fans would not understand to be successful at it.
Yeah, I think there's more pressure on the guy throwing batting practice than there is for the hitter. You see a guy throughout the year, and it doesn't matter if you're at the WCBL or in the big leagues. You have guys that you face constantly throughout the year, and they know where your happy spot is, where you like to try to hit home runs. But I mean, in order for a guy to be on the mound, with a full house here in SEMA Stadium or in Atlanta last night, it's a lot of pressure on guys to throw strikes consistently. You throw a couple balls in a row, and then all of a sudden the hitter gets out of sync. So, it's tough for the BP thrower as well. We call it dead arm. That's what we call coaches BP nowadays, is dead arm. But again, they do a tremendous job here, especially with the college home run contest as well.
Well, let's get into that. We can come back to MLB near the end. But when the WCBL, John Milton specifically from the Okotoks Dogs asked if we could get you on the show to promote the All-Star game, I'm like, well, we can. I'd love to talk to Matt, but I'm pretty sure you're not going to be hurting to sell tickets because it was jammed last year. It was so much fun, and I'm sure this weekend will be too. But what's different is you now have a full-time role with the Dogs, from what I understand. What's changed from a year ago?
Well, a lot has changed, actually. I mean, it seems like my second home now is here in Okotoks. I became the director of the hitting for the academy. I come out every couple of months and spend, anywhere between 10 and 2 weeks each time to come out here. And, it's just something where they know I love talking hitting and teaching hitting, and it's an opportunity to come out to an amazing organization. The academy is awesome. They've had a tremendous year again. It's an easy pick for me because the coaching staff and the front office they have here is tremendous, and to come out here and be a part of a great program with the academy, it was a no-brainer. And this is my 6th time I've been out here since we talked last, so I get excited and get to hang out with John and all the boys and talk shop and talk hitting and and put our minds together what we can do better to make these players better players.
Well, Again, I just got into announcing baseball in my 50s, and I love it, but I got a lot to learn. And I'd heard, after a career in hockey and football, which I think I told you, but I heard at the major league level and maybe even at the college level, the pitches are so good now that the hitter knows before the pitch is delivered whether he's going to swing or not. There's not time to make that conscious decision physically. Is that true?
100%. I mean, I think the biggest thing when it comes to being, the hitters that are very, very good is that they have a game plan. When you step in the batter's box, you need to have a game plan of what your strength is and what you're looking for in certain situations. College baseball, you might not have the advanced scouting as much as you do in the MLB, because when you get the MLB, you know what you're going to be seeing from a guy. You know what his out pitch is, what he likes to start off with lefties or righties. Makes it a little easier. In college baseball is you have a lot more guys that throw extremely hard. Might not have the great control as they do in the major leagues, but again, if the only thing you can control in hitting is your approach, and if you stick with your approach, look at certain areas, certain pitches, and certain situations, a lot of times you'll have good success with it. So that's an easier way to kind of dummy it down hitting wise. Is just hit off your strength, and hopefully, when you get the 2 strikes, then you battle.
Here come the questions from the viewers. Bill in Regina writes, and he says, question, why not use a pitching machine so everyone sees the same pitch?
And that's actually a very good question. Pitch machine would be the most consistent throwing, but it's the hardest thing to hit off for timing wise. When a coach is on the mound, you can have that, the break of the hands. When the pitch is coming out of the hands, you can see it better. But it's hard because sometimes when you have the pitch machine and you drop the ball, and sometimes it might go in quicker, sometimes it might get stuck a little bit. Really, as a hitter, you need to have timing wise. And this, putting a ball in the pitching machine, is not a timing. This is a timing when the pitcher breaks his hand. So it makes it a lot easier for players to not kind of panic a little bit when the ball's coming in. At least you're having the same release point every single time. Good question, though.
Yeah. Canadian Baseball Hall of Famer and World Series champion Matt Stairs is with us. And I don't know if John Milton told you, we got you for about 15 minutes. So I won't keep you too long. All kinds of questions have come in for you. But I got to ask you this. Since I've delved into baseball head first, I love what I see. And I want to learn more. And I go to these games in Florida now because we can play year-round, where I live for 9 months out of the year. And there's more Canadians, Matt, playing NCAA baseball than ever. You may know the numbers better than me, but I heard it's like 135 Canadians. And because we always hear about football. Has the game had a resurgence in Canada, or why do we have this astronomical number higher than ever before?
Well, I mean, if I told you the numbers, I'd be lying. I don't know the exact numbers. I just think there's just more opportunities for players nowadays to, especially here in Okotoks, you get a chance to come out here and, the season just finished and guys are playing 80, 90 games a year, at the 18U level. So, the opportunity compared to back when I was playing, we had the National Baseball Institute, which we never played as many games. But, you come out here now and you have 3 beautiful stadiums all within, 2 big swings of a home run, from each other. And, the quality of baseball. I mean, they get to travel everywhere nowadays. It's like almost like every game at 18U is a showcase because you're playing in so many different tournaments. The boys just got back from Portland this past weekend, and the 18U Red Team won that. So it's just it's the opportunity now, I think, is why you're seeing more Canadians get a chance to go down the States or wherever they're going. It's because of baseball now is 10.5 months a year round out here. Okotoks is an amazing program, and it just pushes players to be better. And let's face it, the more reps you get, the better you're going to get. And they get a lot of reps out here over and over and over. So it's just, it helps you improve constantly.
We saw that in football. It's not an athleticism thing. Americans aren't more athletically gifted than Canadians in football, but they've been brought up in it. So if you're brought up in baseball, you'll have as good an opportunity. And as, like you say, reps. It's not like they're superior athletes. What do you think? John wants, there's a few Johns. John wants to know your thoughts on robot umpires. I guess they're using it tonight for the All-Star game, or testing it anyways.
Again, you're talking to a guy that's old school. I think umpires do all in all, actually a very good job. Minus a few umpires might stink at times. To me, I'm old school. I like the old-fashioned umpires. The umpires get back to having a good conversation with guys. It's interesting because when we were playing, when you played against the American League umpires and National League umpires, you knew the strike zone was going to be different. American League umpire was up and down. National League was in and out. Now you get into the robot strike zone. Let's face it, some of those backdoor sliders that are unhittable that might catch the corner will help pitchers out a lot. And that's, to me, being an offensive guy, I think it's gonna hurt the offense a little bit. Again, we'll see what happens, but let's just don't take money out of umpires' pockets because we're gonna go to robot umpires as well.
I said a number of months ago on this show that they should go to robotic umpires, and my God, the umps went crazy. I also said we should get rid of national anthems, and the anthem singers went crazy. So I don't know why I have a show. I'm pissing everybody off.
You can't make everyone happy.
No, exactly. But do you think MLB would be upset about losing the theatrics of this? Because I'm the voice of the Moose Jaw Miller Express. I think we lead the league in coaches getting tossed. All 3 of our coaches have been tossed multiple times this year. There would be no ump-coach interaction. There'd be no fights over who would you complain to with a robot?
Your wife when you go home, I guess. Like that's the biggest thing. It's like you're taking away from a good. I'm not saying it's right for players and coaches to argue with umpires and stuff, but I mean you end up having a good relationship with umpires. And again, what their strike zone are. If they're a pitcher umpire, if they're a hitter's umpire. There's nothing wrong with it, but why does all of a sudden just change everything? We've already changed the slide to the second base. We already changed the Buster Posey play at home plate. You can't take the the catcher out. I understand that because the salaries are so big, but why all of a sudden are we going to change the game that's been around for 100 years of having umpires behind home plate and having them sit behind home plate and call a game to their best ability, which they do a tremendous job. Basically, what you're going to do is some guys who are 99% right most of the time they're gonna have the effect of this. I can understand, the guys that are, let's just say, bad umpires, but I mean, it's going to affect a lot of good umpires, and I don't like to see it. I like to see old-fashioned baseball, and I like to see the umpires get there and do their best.
Oh, man, we could ring up a phone bill, you and I, because all these things are popping into my mind. What about the pitch clock? I'd like to see it brought into the WCBL because it's ridiculous. And I've got the pitching coaches. You would know Dustin Mulliken. He's telling the kids, guys, speed it up because the higher you go level, you're going to need to pick it up, guys. Yet, I live 40 miles north of Miami, and all my friends say, we're not going to games because with the pitch clock, we got games under 2 hours long. I'm not going to drive an hour in traffic for a less than 2 hour game, that it's too fast. How do you feel about that advent?
Again, I don't mind the pitch clock as much as any other rule change. I don't. I think, we've all sat down and watched the Boston Red Sox and New York Yankee game play 9 innings in the last 4.5 hours. There's just, I don't mind the pitch clock. I think college ball, yes, bring it in. It'll help you when you get to pro. Hopefully you get there that it's going to adjust a lot quicker. But some guys are remember Turk Wendell, who pitched for the Chicago Cubs? I mean, he took forever on the mound. He was like a minute and a half in between pitches. There's a lot of extra beer drink in the stands because he's pitching. But I do understand some people saying they travel, an hour drive to play a 2 hour game, which is fine. They have the right to say that. But I just, maybe it's find a happy-go-lucky time if it's 20 seconds or a little longer. But the people that say that it's causing injuries to arms, they're just using that for an excuse as well. So I don't mind the pitch clock.
Yeah, well, I wish we would bring it into the WCBL. One thing I love is starting extra innings with a guy on second. You have to, I would hope, I like that. At least we're not sitting there all night. This is ending games fast.
It is, but I think baseball has to bring back small ball. I think they don't play enough small ball enough to where. And I understand people say, well, we don't want to give an easy out by sacrificing the guy to third base. Well, it's better taking an out than hitting the fly ball to left field and not advancing a runner. So, there's some, I don't mind it. Whatever. It's interesting that you have a man on second base, but the games are changing, right? And as much as I hate to say it, you have to start accepting the certain rule changes.
Oh, God, this is going too fast. Just 2 last questions. John in Edmonton would like to know your thoughts on the MLB going to Vegas.
I wish I was going with them. I think it's. I mean, listen. I'm a big Oakland A's fan. Oakland was a team that gave me the chance to play. Billy Beane and Sandy Alderson brought me in there. I was their type of player. I had a lot of love for Oakland, still do. I'll be going down to Sacramento here in a couple of months to do an autograph session. But, I think it's another, it's going to be a hot topic in Vegas. They're going to have the best probably stadium you'll ever see. It worked for hockey, and I see no reason why it won't work really well for baseball. And hopefully it does because, baseball needs the well, I guess it won't be the Oakland A's anymore, but they need that organization to be back as good as they were back in the day.
Now a flood of questions are coming in. If you don't mind, Matt, we're going to have to bring you back another time because we're out of time, and I want to spend the last minute and 45 seconds talking about Saturday's WCBL All-Star Game and why people should buy a ticket. It's so awesome, man. What are they going to see?
They're going to see a lot of young talent. I think it's like a hidden gem up here with the league. I don't think it gets enough love as it should. The players come out here and they get an extra chance to play an extra 60, 70 games, whatever it is. It's just with the atmosphere here at Siemens Stadium, packed house, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 people. It's going to be electric. It's going to be fun during the home run contest. It's a great time, and it just has a chance to show how much talent there is in the WCBL. It's a great league. I enjoy it. I sit down in the left field corner and watch the game, and John sits beside me, and we talk about the talent coming up, and there's some tremendous talented players that have potential to go somewhere. That's for sure.
Have you seen a better minor league ballpark anywhere? I have not.
No. I mean, like I said, you have the 3 stadiums right here, and that's why it's ranked number 1 in North America. I mean, the facility is amazing. The grounds crew guys, everyone who takes part in this ballpark does a tremendous job, and I guess you play as good as your stadium is, and that's the reason why the Dogs have such a great program.
The Yankees of baseball, of the WCBL, I think they're okay with it. Great job, Matt. Thank you. Appreciate you.
All right, thanks, man. Thanks for having me on.
MLB great, World Series champion, and from the Okotoks Dogs, their hitting director, Matt Stairs. Lots to get to the rest of the way. Viewer takeover and sports update right after this here on Game Plus Television.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with The Rod Peterson Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Peterson Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Peterson Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Peterson Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Peterson Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with The Rod Peterson Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Peterson Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Peterson Show.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to the RP Show. I hope you're having as much fun as I am today with the Skycron crew. Great job, Corey, and everybody. All kinds of comments coming in here. I will say this before I get to those. Matt Stairs is like the most typical baseball guy that I've known. And I mean, I don't mind saying, and you watch the show I know we have a lot of new viewers that are just getting to know me, but there's also people that have known me for decades. 37 years in the business, and I was never, ever earned a paycheck in this business till last year when I started doing baseball. The baseball people are so chill. Who's like Matt Steer just leans against the fence? Answers the questions. They're just chill, and they're nice. And the thing about the Western Canadian Baseball League is they've got Matt Stairs as the hitting coach, World Series champion. Dustin Mulliken started games for the Detroit Tigers as our pitching coach here in Moose Jaw. And when I started with the team last year, the league people were like, oh, we're just so happy to have you here. I'm like, why? I'm not used to getting that. They said, having you legitimizes us. Broadcasters like Les Lazaruk and Scruffy and you. And we do? Well, thanks. But they're just so nice and so welcoming. And the kids are so great. And I think people are starting to realize that's why I came back. It's an awesome, awesome, awesome gig. And nice people like that. Matt just typifies. I mean, he looks like a tow truck driver, doesn't he? That's the cool thing. He's just me, Matt Stairs, not a big deal from St. John, New Brunswick. Shout out to the Atlantic viewers, by the way, here on Game Plus Television. Glad to have you. The poll question is always fun, but especially today, because of the latest spat between Ron MacLean and Don Cherry. Look, I don't want to talk about it, but it is a blight on society, or however you want to say it, that our most viewed clip of yesterday's show, thousands of views on TikTok, as opposed to the other things that we talked about, thousands on Ron and Don. People just can't not look at a train wreck, right? People just love delving into somebody else's drama. So to turn that into a good story, our poll question today is, who is the most famous Canadian TV duo of all time? And the four that I came up with a little help from Joe, who you will all meet on Friday, he's going to be on the show here, are Ron and Don from Hockey Night in Canada, Jay and Dan from TSN, Jay Onwright and Dan O'Toole, Bob and Doug McKenzie, or Casey and Finnegan, the two puppets from Mr. Dress Up. Running away with it's Ron and Don. Like, we didn't get it wrong, but we did have some write-in ballots for Wayne and Schuster, and that was a oops on me. My bad. Probably should have had Wayne and Schuster in there ahead of Casey and Finnegan, but can't win them all. Blair in Calgary writes in and says, Moose says Ron and Don are like family. If that's the case, then Rod would be the brother I'd like to punch in the face. Well, we all have those in our family, and I think I'm that in mine. Randy in Saskatoon writes in, he says, Randy here, I spent many hours as a boy on the farm listening to Rod and Carm. I know you weren't on TV at that time, but that's still the best play-by-play duo. Thank you, Randy. This is hilarious, by the way. I'm going to write him back. He says, with our tech setup here, he's 52 years of age. So am I. What do you mean, listen to me as a boy? Give me a break. We're the same age. But thank you. As a lady said to me in the doctor's office the other day, oh, I miss you doing the Rider games. I'm like, it's been 7 years. Can we get over it? She's like, just take the compliment. Kirk in Toronto. Hey, Rod, out for a 6K walk the other night, and you could smell the smoke from the wildfires in Northern Ontario. You definitely don't want to play football in that poor air quality. That's why, people are saying, why is the CFL not having a news conference to say they screwed up? And I'm like, probably because they don't think they did. And I'm not sure that they did screw up. So why would you have a news conference to admit wrongdoing if you didn't do anything wrong? Sometimes spit happens. That's kind of what we've been talking. That's what happened here Friday night. I don't know why in the 80s we didn't have 70s, 80s, 90s. Why we didn't, we had forest fires. Why did we not have air quality problems? I understand it was a different time. I get that. A more dangerous time. And I'm sure if they'd played, they'd have been fine, right? Why did we social distance and all the rest? Don't get me going down that. Overtime is next. In the break, if you're watching streaming, please like and share. We'll be right back here on Game Plus TV.
This is a test pattern. This is what happens when your video company screws up. You don't want your clients to see a screw up. Hire a company that only does video, so it won't screw up. Then, people who give you money will see less of these and more of you. Skycron.com/live.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Peterson Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Peterson Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Peterson Show.
Sports fans, daytime sports talk gets a whole lot better weekdays at noon Eastern with The Rod Peterson Show. Talking sports daily with A-list guests, and the best part is, you can always join the discussion as we're the most interactive talk show on television. Broadcasting from coast to coast from the biggest events like Super Bowl, Stanley Cup Final, Grey Cup, and more, there's nothing like it in the game today. The Rod Peterson Show, daily at noon Eastern and 10 p.m. Pacific on Game Plus Network.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Peterson Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Peterson Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Peterson Show.
Famoso, Italian pizzeria and bar. Taste, savor, share. Famoso, the spirit of Italian. Come in, enjoy.
Hiring a video company shouldn't be complicated. Click, pay, done. Skycron.com/Regina.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Peterson Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Peterson Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Peterson Show.
We're back for overtime, and it's always exciting at Overtime Hockey Lanes. They got their day camps going on right now. All I can do, the best thing I can do for you, I know Randy and Michelle will not be watching right now because they'll be busy running their day camp. There is no hockey off-season at Overtime Hockey Lanes in Calgary. So go to their Instagram, their Facebook pages, Overtime Hockey Lanes, on those things, and you'll find out all the exciting things they got going on. Fill up their camps with your kids. Get them out of the house. And we'll be doing a live show there on July 30th at Overtime Hockey Lanes in Calgary. Come on down and say hi. I love when the things morph together. The poll question for EMJ Marketing is, what's the most famous Canadian television duo ever? Ron in Calgary writes in, and he's listed his top three. Number 1, Casey and Finnegan from Mr. Dress Up. Number 2, Wayne and Schuster. Number 3, Ron and Dawn. And I'll probably sound like a jerk for saying this, but I don't mind. I do that a lot. I'm just saying to anybody, if you want to come down to our live shows in Calgary, please do. July 29th at the Sheridan Airport Cavalier Airport for the Western Canadian Scouting Foundation Hall of Fame induction where my dad's going in, or Overtime Hockey Lanes. Come there. But I've got people writing me going, can we go for lunch? Can we go for coffee? No, we can't. No, that's not happening. I don't have time. It's not a holiday, it's work. And it reminds me of when the NHL Heritage Classic was here in Regina. I was all excited. I was there at a sponsors event the night before the game, and the Sportsnet Hockey Night in Canada crew was there, and I was in a room with Kelly Rudy, who I knew from before, Elliot Friedman I'd worked with at the Score. Ron McLean had been on this show, and Ron did – listen, you may or may not like him, but you can't say he's not talented as hell. Ron McLean basically got up and did a stand-up comedy routine for all these sponsors in the room. It was amazing. But I'm like, where's Grapes? Where's Don? I came to see Don. I'm sure you all are very nice people, but I came to see Don Cherry. And they said, well, he went up to his room. He's tired. I'm like, what? I'm here with the sponsors. He's 85 years old. He's had a long day. He's tired. I was pissed off. Don did what was best for Don. And now that I look at it from the other way, not fanboy anymore, I get it. I get it. And then later on, we ended up having him on this show. So I didn't rip him on this show for not staying up for a sponsor event. He was tired. Don't we all get tired? He was 85. Utah Darren writes in and he says, hey, Rod, I coached high school football for about 34 years, and the air quality thing is new. But I think the turfed fields most teams play on may lead into the air quality issue. The temperature is much higher. I'm just saying it again. I'm not sure the CFL did anything wrong. And yet, you had Scruffy on here yesterday, breathing fire. I blame the CFL for this. For what exactly? Jeff in the Zone writes in, he says, hey, Rod, great show. Thank you for tuning in. Bomber Boy says, gotta meet Rod, the Canadian sports show god. If that's what it is, then great. Scott in Vancouver writes in, he says, my aunt is in her late 70s. She said the sun's rays were never this hot in the past. I think humidity has also just gotten worse. Listen, far be it for me to defend the CFL because they're not paying me. And nobody listens to me anyways, least of all them. But I'm just sitting, the CFL, but I'm just sitting here going, I don't think they did anything wrong. So, has anybody thought of that? Darren from Melfort writes in on the Western Dodge text line, I'm a little behind, but maybe the haters should blame the ones starting these fires, creating the smoke that postponed the Rider game. Yeah, I said it. I don't know anything about that. Sports update, Toronto Blue Jays slugger Vladimir Guerrero Jr. will start at first base and bat fifth for the American League in tonight's Major League Baseball All-Star Game. Guerrero will anchor a powerful heart of the American League batting order, hitting second behind Yankees slugger Aaron Judge and ahead of Mariners catcher Cal Raleigh, the Major League home run leader at Truist Park, home of the Atlanta Braves. Here's one. Major League Baseball faces a potential lockout in December 2026. Players and management have long clashed over salary cap proposals, a format that Union head Tony Clark criticizes as harmful to competition and player salary guarantees. Commissioner Rob Manfred argues the cap could address payroll disparities as MLB also tries to deal with declining revenue from regional sports networks. Teams like the Dodgers and Mets have pushed payrolls to record levels, highlighting the disparity. Baseball's CBA expires in December of 2026, and past negotiations have led to 9 work stoppages. And I'll just say it, but it's not like they don't know it, but I'm the one with the TV show that's on the air in Canada and the USA. Yeah, they've had 9 work stoppages in the past, and they have largely always survived them, but this is a new time. Like, when the CFL wiped out the 2020 season because of COVID, I don't think they've ever recovered. You know, John wrote in here earlier from Edmonton and wanted to talk about the CFL's problems. It was the very first segment. I'm like, I am not going down that rabbit hole, and I'm really not going down it now. Out of sight, out of mind is the point. And now the CFL is playing catch-up, and being in the trail position is one that you'll never win in. So Major League Baseball, you'll always have your diehards, but with the NFL taking over, hockey's growing in popularity in the U.S., the NBA salaries are skyrocketing, I don't think you want to have another work stoppage. Colin in Ottawa writes in, he says, great call on putting a lid on the Don Cherry versus Ron McLean discussion, Rod. You aren't the only one tired of it. Well, you obviously weren't watching the whole show, Colin, because as I said way back in hour one, the most watched clip of our show yesterday with thousands of views on TikTok was the one about Ron and Don. So I'm not going to sit here and talk about it for 2 hours, but I will talk about it because that's, if I didn't talk about what way more people want to talk about that than the CFL or the All-Star game or these other things. I don't get it, but I'd be an idiot to ignore it. Mama didn't raise no fool. We'll see you tomorrow, noon Eastern, right here.
Now I'm the whore and the pimp. That's where the money is.
How about that?